What if, instead of letting Meta spend your budget across the entire 24 hours, you could focus that same budget during the hours when you know your customers are actually more active? I tested a simple strategy with Meta ads, and honestly, the results were pretty interesting. Instead of setting my campaign to $35 a day and letting it run non-stop from morning to night, I did something completely different. And in this video, I'm gonna show you exactly how I did it, step by step, right inside Ads Manager. First, let me explain the idea before we get into the actual setup. Normally, you'd set a daily budget of $35 and let the campaign run for 24 hours. Meta then has the freedom to distribute that $35 throughout the day based on delivery and the opportunities it finds. But I did the opposite. I wanted to control roughly when my campaign was active and let Meta spend the budget faster during that specific window. So, let's jump into Ads Manager. I have a campaign here that's focused on getting sales through messages, but you can apply the same basic idea depending on your campaign type and objective. Let's start right here. I set the daily budget to $90. And you might be wondering, why $90 if I only want to spend $35? And this is exactly where the strategy comes in. I'm not planning to spend the full $90. I'm using the $90 as my maximum budget, and once the campaign reaches the amount I actually want to spend, I pause it. Let's say the campaign starts at 8 a.m. At 8 a.m., I turn it on and let it run. I monitor the spend. And once the campaign gets to around $35, I pause it. So instead of giving Meta the entire day to spend at $35, I'm giving it a higher budget, but I'm manually deciding when the spending stops. Then, the next day at 8 a.m., I activate the campaign again. Same campaign. Same creative. Same audience. And I repeat the exact same process. That way, I'm trying to concentrate my $35 of ad spend during the time window I chose, instead of letting it spread across the entire 24 hours. But here's the bigger question, why do this in the first place? Because ads aren't just about the budget. Timing matters. If you have a product and your customers tend to be more active and more likely to buy during certain hours, it can make sense to test concentrating your ad spend during those hours. Personally, I noticed from my own data that there were certain periods when my traffic, messages, and purchases were stronger. So instead of letting the budget run the same way throughout the entire day, I decided to test controlling when the money was actually being spent. But let me make one thing very clear. This is not some magic Meta ads hack. It doesn't mean that every time you pause your campaign at $35, you're automatically going to double your sales. What happened for me was simply a test based on my own data. And if you're going to try it, you need to compare the results. I didn't change the product. I didn't necessarily change the audience. And I didn't double the amount of money I wanted to spend. I simply changed how I controlled when the budget was being spent. And after seeing the results, I wanted to share the experiment with you. But the most important thing is, don't blindly copy what I did. Test it, compare the numbers, and let the data make the decision. And if you guys want, in the next video I'll show you another experiment I ran with Meta ads and how I was able to increase my sales with roughly the same budget. I'll see you in the next video.